Suleiman Barau, the Deputy Governor of Corporate Services at the Central Bank of Nigeria, retires. This week, the FSS 2020 had their strategic review session in Lagos to review the last 10 years. The FSS 2020 came into being in 2007. That is one initiative that has seen different governors, in fact, 3 governors of the Central Bank from 2007 till date. The FSS 2020 is made up of not just the Central Bank of Nigeria, but other agencies in the financial system, the Securities and Exchange Commission, NICOM, NDIC, Nigerian Stock Exchange, FIRS, what have you, all the stakeholders. So they did meet in Lagos last week. Yesterday on the program, I will brought to you the interview which I had with Suleiman Barau, who happens to be the FSS 2020 coordinator. Today on the program, we will be bringing you that interview again because it did not conclude yesterday. So do stay and don't forget to be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye now. Hello and welcome to the program Moneyline with Nancy. It is, and my guest is with me right now, Suleiman Barau, who is the Deputy Governor of Corporate Services of the Central Bank of Nigeria. He is also the coordinator of FSS 2020. Some of you may say, what is FSS? For those of you that haven't heard what FSS is, it is Financial System Strategy 2020. And I have here my guest. So let me leave all the storytelling to him. Welcome, sir, and thank you for being on the program. Quite a long time. How have you been, sir?
Thank you, Nancy. I'm happy to, to be with you again. It's always a pleasure, to be at your program. It's been fine. For the FSS 2020 Financial System Strategy 2020, it's been 10 years. Actually, almost 11 years. 10 years. Since we had a strategy document. 11 years since we had a strategy document. 10 years since President Erado approved it for us to, to go. This was after our international conference, one of the best international conferences that we've had in Nigeria, that took place in sometime in June 2007. That's when we saw him, and he gave us the go ahead to, to implement the strategy, the blueprint, strategy that we've had. So it's been a very active, 10 years, for us. One of the things that one must say is that we don't lack reform. We don't like strategy documents in Nigeria. I think most of them, die. So I'm happy that under the leadership of the respective governors and with the support of the, CEOs of different participating agencies that we came together, we've kept it, alive. We've recorded modest, success in doing the things that we said we wanted to, to do.
Okay, I would ask you, especially for those that perhaps are just hearing what FSS 2020 is, so that we don't just take it for granted.
Yeah.
What actually inspired FSS 2020 in the first place? Okay. What is FSS 2020?
Okay. The whole concept started in 2005. As you will recall, the consolidation exercise under Professor Chukwuma Soludo, when he was governor of Central Bank, actually terminated. The closing date, for the initiative, which started in 2004, was December 2005. During that time, it was discovered that different segments of the financial system were embarking on reforms, and it was felt that it's his own idea, that we shouldn't be reforming in silos, so to speak. So the banking industry did the consolidation to strengthen the banks and other financial institutions under the purview of the Central Bank of Nigeria. But how did that affect the insurance industry? Or in other words, what could we have done to make sure that the consolidation has happened in the context of what the impact it could have on the insurance and on the capital market? Of course, it had impact on the capital market because banks became more capitalized. So it was then that he felt that look, let's have an integrated approach to reforms, and it makes sense. So that's how it started. So the essence of FSS 2020 is for the different segments, for the different buckets of the financial system, to come together and agree that, look, we are reforming, we are moving forward, but let's do it in a way that is coherent and it's mutually reinforcing. So that's what FSS 2020 seeks to do. So what happens in insurance is, reform in initiatives in insurance is done in the context of what the impact it will have in the banking system, and what other impact will it have on other sectors was identified, and it was then articulated into a document that I have, which is the blueprint. And in that blueprint, we had over 700 initiatives that we said we know we're going to implement. So we went through a visionary process, well thought through visionary process that involved the stakeholders. And let me just retrace back to say that these stakeholders were, one of the problems of reforms generally is that the people who are embarking on reforms must have the mandate to be able to, to embark on it. So it was important. We, the institutions that came together, had the mandate because we are government, agencies. We had then the Minister of Finance, coming in we came with SEC, Nigerian Stock Exchange, Insurance, Commission, NDIC. We all had mandate. We had the backing of government, to implement the initiative. So we came together. These agencies came together and brought in operators. So we had capital market operators under the purview of SEC. We had bank operators under, under CBN, NICOM. We had the brokers, the insurance, companies. We then set up a comprehensive group of operators together with the regulators, and we went through, a visioning process. The essence of that is that this is not a visionary process, again, coming from the regulators. It's also coming from the practitioners. So we had, cross-industry, fertilization of ideas that crafted the strategy document that we have, which, crafted the vision and the mission, the strategic objectives, and then the initiatives. And that's, I spoke about 700 initiatives. So we now have this document, and that was what we took to President Erdogan in 2007, and he said, "Yes, go ahead and and implement it." So the discipline that went into the crafting of the strategy document, the kind of discipline that, to be honest, we also have tried to do, and I say this with modesty to make sure that it is alive. So, in other words, in textbook sense, we are not where we should be, but given the challenges of strategy execution, globally, and particularly in Nigerian context, I think we've done a lot in two contexts. One is in keeping the spirit and the engagement and the teamwork among regulators. The other is in doing so many things that we said we were going to do, that we've done.
From what I know, at least since the inception of FSS2020, just like you said, over 10 years now, going into the 11th year, it's passed through 3 CBN governors, Professor Soludo, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, and now Godwin Emefiele. What would you say, or how far would you say that the FSS 2020 has gone, the FSS 2020 itself, in terms of, you talked about crystallization, have we seen it crystallize? How far has it been? Because I also need to note to our viewers that you are the coordinator of FSS 2020. It's like FSS 2020 is on your table, it's been your baby for over 10 years. Now, I'll come to later that you'll be leaving soon, but how far has it been?
Well, it's been, let me, first of all, the credits, somebody said that, the governor has the legacy, the big L, and whoever is working with the governor will have the small, the small L. So the legacies, to be honest, this is the legacy that all the 3 governors must take, credit for. And apart from the fact that Governor Soludo, initiated it and gave it the visibility that it required, Governor Sanusi Lamido Sanusi came and said, "Well, wait a minute. I may be a different governor, but it's the same central bank, it's the same financial system, and this is a good document. So let me take it and move it forward." And we had a strategy review session under his leadership. And now Governor Emefiele, who came and said, we briefed him at our committee of governors meeting, and he said, "Well, look, let's run along with." As you very well know, we just had another strategy review session, so he owned it. one of the things that they did, and one of the things that I also did, from what they did, is to say that, well, look, we have a document. This is an execution, issue. So let's allow the people who are to execute. So I had free hand as the coordinator, to be honest with you. I had free hand, and I took that free hand. I also gave it to to the program office. Say, you're on your own. These are our objectives, and please go ahead and make sure that that we implement. And that's the way we have operated. So if we remain alive, it's because we have allowed it to operate in a what you can call a very professional context, and that is that we have a strategy document, and what is left, is execution. Now, let me also quickly recognize, as well, the support of the CEOs of those institutions. Some of them are even more passionate than to be honest, than some of us. So for it to remain as a program that is an industry program, so to speak. I mean, the CEOs also have said we keyed in, and they brought in their own, resources, not necessarily financial resources, but at least the human resources. Not to forget that the whole essence of FSS2020 is not for CBN or for me or for the program office to come up with initiatives that we're going to employ. Like I said, it's an industry initiative. So it's things that, what you have in this initiative are things that the institutions themselves said they are going to do. So all that we're doing at the program office, under, my leadership, is to make sure that after the strategy document was crafted, to make sure that we follow up on the things that they said they are going to do. Ownership is only elicited if people say we want to do something, and maybe that's why again we kept it alive, because the institutions see it as their own initiative. So all that we did was to make sure that we follow them on what they said they are going to do. And honestly, in Nigeria, we tend to be, I'm going to talk generally about, as like you said, as I retire, the way I understand things, we tend to be too, critical about, in negative content about what we have done. Look, from everything that we said we want to do, it may not have been encapsulated in this initiative, but we've done so many things, even outside the things that we say we're going to do.
Because I was coming to that, what will be the milestones? Because I know since 2007, I've been following this program very keenly, because it's not just about CBN, it's all about other implementing agencies, NICOM, NDIC, just like you said, SEC, Nigeria Security Exchange, and all of that. What has been the milestone so far? Because you said this is a strategy document. They are also owned by the agencies, reforms and initiatives by them. Can you speak to me about some of the milestones?
Okay, I'll try and talk about what have been achieved by different segments in broad sense of the participating institutions. At the central bank, what we have done is to say, look, how do we, beyond the things that we have done in strengthening the financial system, like through bank regulation. One of the things that we have in that document is the regulation study, the theme. We had a theme, regulation. So everything that you've seen about risk-based supervision, about consolidated supervision, about cross-border supervision, about alliance with other regulators in jurisdictions that our banks operate, was encapsulated in the FSS2020 document, and that has been, that has been done. Now, this is as far as our regulation is concerned. But when we did the review about 3-4 years ago during government, so we said, look, there's debate, global debate, as regards whether it is, the real sector reform that should precede the structural, the financial system that should, precede the real sector or structural reform, or vice versa. What we said was that, look, we're not going to wait. That is, the financial system is going to wait. Our central bank will go ahead and see how our reforms will impact the real sector. So when we did the review about 4 years ago, we said, let's see how we can modify the vision to make sure that we're not just deepening the financial system or diversifying it, but also making sure that it impacts on the real sector. So a lot of the things that we have done under the CBN's development finance are things that have also been encapsulated in the FSS2020, either in earlier form or in revised form. That's a CBN. But let me mention, in fact, the most significant, beyond the things that I've mentioned, CBN bucket, is the payments reform that we've seen. Everything that we have a payments vision 2020, which is part of the FSS 2020. Everything that we've done, from cashless, from driving the mobile system, from mobile banking, electronic banking in general, to the creation and strengthening of NIPS, are things that were duly, essentially, FSS 2020 programs that were domiciled in the Central Bank of Nigeria. I am happy that, in fact, that's where the most profound impact has been made in the payments arena. As you know, we never had cards. We never had, even the clearing, the clearing system was slow. You had 3+ days before now it's, checks are, transactions are cleared the same day, and electronic payment, you have NIFT, the NIFT's instant pay, which were one of the 4 countries in the world that at least at some point that were doing that. So these are some of the things that I've been saying we have to document. Things that we have done, which may not be specific, but which would tangentially, happen out of the FSS 2020 initiative. The insurance regulator took the FSS 2020 document and has worked with it. I don't have the numbers, but you see the insurance penetration has increased. It's not where we want to be, but it was the regulator, it was the sector that was very, very slow. But we made huge progress. You now have people coming to invest in the external, that is, people from abroad coming to invest in our insurance, firms. Premium income has ballooned. The quantum of underwriting has ballooned. It's not where we want to be, but as percentage of GDP, it was less than 5%. I'm sure that, but now it has increased. So the insurance sector has also made progress. When you come to SEC, to the capital market, a lot of reforms at the stock exchange, a lot of reforms at SEC regarding efficiency, regarding reduction in fees. Even when we were doing a review today, we discussed that, handshaking with Federal Inland Revenue Service to make sure that the taxes are adjusted, or there are no double taxation, to ensure that people go into the fixed income market. We have now FMDQ, and so a lot of reforms have happened, and we now have sophisticated products. When we were starting FSS, it was plain vanilla products.
The market wasn't as
deep as it is,
but it can get better.
It can get better. I'm not saying.
We are not there yet.
But we made a lot of progress. So now we have common or the most basic derivative products. Hedge products are very, very important for deepening the financial system. We now have forwards, transactions. We have futures, financial futures. That's what we use to at the CBN to actually increase the flow of foreign exchange, or at least deferring some of the demand that will have come into the market, and has ensured the gradual shaping of the challenges that we've had in the foreign exchange market where we are today, where we have stability in the foreign exchange market. All these products helped because we have a deeper market. So in the capital market, we've also made huge progress. What we have not done, which we recognize, when we had the release, is to deepen the fixed income market. Okay. Because when I appear at the National Assembly and people, say, our regulators will say, CBN, high interest rate. It's not a response that people want to hear, but the truth is that the fundamentals today are such that there is nothing anybody can do. Where government is borrowing in the domestic market, a huge amount, and there is crowding out effect.
Private sector.
Yeah, the private sector. If government is borrowing at 18%, the least that a bank will lend to is at 18%, because risk-free rate is 18%. So when people say lending should be at single digit, So developing the fixed income market, because the fundamentals of demand and supply for capital in the banking sector will necessarily, because demand outstrips supply, will necessarily lead to high rate, cost of capital. What we need to do is to embark on fundamental reforms that will take away, the demand from the banking system into the capital market, and that we envisage in the FSS2020 document, creating a huge fixed income market so that a lot of the big borrowers will leave the banking system. When they leave the banking system, the demand-supply fundamentals will naturally lead rates to gravitate. That's an unfinished business, the fixed income market. And during the review that we had, we said that is a transformational initiative that we must, work on. I mean, the review session that we had, we just finished. It's a transformational initiative that we must work on. Deepening the fixed income market. Creating a good atmosphere for corporate bonds to come. It's recognized in the FSS2020. These are areas that we said, well, look, these are things that transformational initiatives that we said we were going to do, that we haven't done, we must. And there are quite a few, of them that we thought in the housing sector, for example. We have quite a number of initiatives in the housing sector that we haven't been able, to do. These are things that we must do, so that, apart from deepening the market, we ensure that there is linkage between the financial system and the real sector.
Okay, the other question is, I know that even in the last 10 years of the FSS 2020 initiative, there's been so many challenges, even some, we've not seen so much nexus among the implementing institutions, but from what you've said, perhaps the next few years we'll begin to see more cohesion. The next question will be, I do also understand that there have been some bills that the National Assembly, that were before the National Assembly, some have been passed. Perhaps some are also, we are seeking the President's assent on some. So I need you to talk about that, because there's been a lot of bills as a result of what FSS 2020 has done in the last 10 years. So talk to me about that.
Thank you very much, for that. It's an area that we felt a bit shortchanged, so to speak, from the system. We worked very hard with the support of the Parliament and our own team. We worked very, very hard. We had a legal team that worked on a number of important bills. These are bills that we don't have any interest in. I mean, the Nigerian International Financial Sector Financial Center Bill is not something that CBN, it's actually going to take some of the powers of CBN in the context of regulating a quarantined environment. The financial ombudsman bill, we don't have any interest. All of us securitization. So these are bills that we pushed, working with the Parliament. I am sad, to say that for three of the bills, the e-payments bill, the financial ombudsman bill, and the Nigerian International Financial Center bill, we worked for 7 years. We drove that these bills be passed at the end of the 7th Assembly. It was concluded they were passed by the two houses. But unfortunately, because several other bills were also passed during the wee hour of the other assembly, and politicians came and said, hey, this is bills that were hidden, agenda, and they were not accepted to. I want to plead on the president, to invite, a review of the government's position as far as those bills are concerned. We worked for 7 years on those bills, working with Parliament, and we, FSS2020, and Central Bank, put a lot of resources to make sure that these bills, are accented to, in order to deepen, the financials, because we need these bills. At some point, we will need to, to have them. One of the bills all the bills, I'll just comment briefly on what I think, are the benefits. The Ombudsman bill, we know what's happening in our courts today. We were looking at the alternative dispute resolution bill, and then the Ombudsman bill as ways that we can, decongest some of the cases that are going to the courts. Yeah. If you want to invite, foreign investors to come into your country, there should be some level of comfort that they are not going to wait for 8-10 years for a simple issue to be resolved. But if we have a financial ombudsman commission and there's a framework, that will be sorted out. For the Nigerian International Financial Center, this document has has said that we are today the 21st largest, around 21st, 22nd largest economy in the world.
According to GDP.
According to GDP, if not because we had actually adjusted, our exchange rate would have been among the top 20. So that objective, but
so have we met being the top 20 economies by 2020 because of the strategy?
Yeah, we are, by the latest numbers I have, we're about 21 or 22. We started, we're about 39. But as a country, we move forward. If not, but I must admit that it was all the GDP rebasing has said that. But that is a fact, that's where we are. So that is being achieved. But in the context of the Nigerian International, Financial Center, remittances, during the time that we did this study, remittances coming from Nigerians abroad was about $7 billion. Today, as you know, it's about 26 billion. At the time we did, when it was $7 billion, dollars, it was, that $7 billion was higher than the GDP of about 19 West African, 18 economies in ECOWAS. That $7 billion is higher than the reserves of that comes in. There are many. So we are, like somebody said, by birthright, we're the financial center of West Africa. We're about 65% of the GDP, more than actually 65% of the GDP of West Africa. So Nigeria must be the financial hub of West Africa at the least, and the aviation as well, hub. But in Africa today, I mean, outside South Africa, we are well located in the same way that Dubai has evolved to be the financial hub of Africa. So the NFIC bill will make us to achieve that, because a lot of the things that will come to develop that NFIC will be funds coming from abroad. I've met so many Nigerians that say, do it, we will come. These are asset developers that will come.
Just like we have in Dubai.
In Dubai.
International Financial Center.
Yeah.
So that means with all those things now we are drawn back, because there was a time that states were even bidding to have the Nigeria International IFCs
absolutely
in their states, as it were.
Absolutely.
So it was like an open.
Yeah, we're going to make it like a transparent, process, and people will bid and they will give incentives. And if I tell you how the way people will come and invest, people will come and put their money. Government is not going to put any money beyond the initial 1 or 2 billion that will be set to run. They will source, the capital to do that. So that will bring in a lot of the capital that we need. Once the capital comes here, then the next stage is to make sure that it permeates, the domestic economy. So, Mr. President, these bills are important bills that, the e-transactions bill is important. I'm happy that the securitization bill has been passed. The movable, collateral has also alternative collateral, has also been approved. But these are bills that we've been working on that we want, Mr. President, to consider, particularly the 3 that have not been signed, so that we can now go to the next stage of making sure, that they are implemented.
It's it's just how many years to 2020? Perhaps around 2 years now. I would say to 2020. Do we still have our eyes on the ball?
Yes, that's why we had this strategy retreat. A lot of things have happened outside the FSS to deepen the market. What we must do now is to look at distinguish issues between circles of concern and circles of influence. What we must not do is to implement things that are within our own circle of influence. So we've agreed today, in our sitting yesterday and today, to say that, look, we are going to ensure that we implement the things that are within our own control within the next three years. And that's there are things that are outside, our own control.
Like perhaps that we need legislative backing,
or government policies in the mortgage sector, for example. Yeah. But we are heading to where we want to be, by the year 2020, as far as some of the things that are within our own areas of our influence.
After 2020, will FSS 2020 still be relevant? After 2020, will it still be relevant? Will it still be all?
You will always want to have a reform, another reform document. The other day I flew to Accra and I saw, a document that they put at the I was flying to Accra in the plane about Ghana being the financial hub of Africa, and they have a program.
Ghana is thinking that.
Yeah, Ghana is
so
thinking
where's
that.
Nigeria?
Yeah, Rwanda is also wants to be the financial hub of Africa. Everybody wants to be the financial hub. So reforming is a continuous thing. So the lessons learned from the what we have done in the 13 years I'm sure will lead to the crafting of a new strategy document to take it to the next level. If you ask me whether participants in the financial industry should cease to cooperate after 2020, no, it's not an option. So they will continue to cooperate. Should they document it? They should document it. Should there be target dates? There should be target dates. So it may be 2030. Maybe it will be FSS20 with new document 2030.
DG, I must say at this time that you are the coordinator of FSS2020, and you'll be retiring soon, in a matter of days. And this is, what would you have to say? What happens as you hand over the mantle? I don't want to say drop the mantle. What happens as you hand over the mantle? What happens to FSS2020? Let me take that first, and I'll come back to your retirement.
Yes, like I said, I mean, honestly, the governors must take the credit, and the heads of institutions must also take the credit. Yes, like you said, there are some reluctance. Ownership is very important in any reform. I think we've addressed that, fundamentally. From what we had today, and from what we'll be hearing.
Changes?
So we'll see changes. So I'm happy that FSS2020 is beyond individual now, and that's why it passed Soludo, passed Sanusi with Godwin. I mean, so Suleiman happened to have been around for the 10 years, and after I leave, I'm sure that somebody will take it and run it along to the extent that we continue with the same philosophy, and that it's not one institution that is bringing other institutions. It's we as different institutions coming together to say this is what we want to do. There will be ownership. If there is ownership and there is some form of financing, and we give some independence to the people who are implemented at all levels, I'm sure that FSS2020 will go to greater heights. I don't have any doubt that from what I have seen in the last 2 days, and I'll be very, very proud. We'll be outside, and we will continue to be advocates, for it.
As you're outside, if you're called upon, perhaps as a consultant to midwife the process, would you be open to that?
I'm an permanent.
Yes. However you retire, okay. Suleiman Barau, please come in and check out what we're doing as someone that started this process that was at.
I'll be happy to do that, subject to to our cooling off period rules. I'll be very happy to do that, and I will. I'm emotionally attached to this program. Yeah, and you see, in Africa and in Nigeria in particular, we have big challenge. People talk about GDP growth. We've been growing. Those are numbers, but we have challenge of development, of inclusiveness, and that's what the governor spoke about. The challenge of deepening the financial system, but of the financial system impacting on economic growth and development, and inclusive growth and which leads to development is very, very important. I can't, after I leave here, just go and sleep. We have big business because we won't feel safe. One of the things that we must do is to, which is a bit outside this, is to look at, if getting the inclusiveness is one thing, but addressing the challenge of population growth for me gives me a lot of concern. I see a lot of people talk about nominal things. So GDP is growing at 7%, population is growing at 2.8%. So I don't know. In context of magnitude, you should look at the numbers. Somebody was talking about Nigeria growing at 450 million. That's scary.
Yes, by 2050.
Yeah,
it will be the third most populous country in the world. That
is scary. So as we are reforming the financial system, as we're witnessing growth, we must make sure that the challenge of poverty and inclusiveness is addressed. How do you do that? Is to make sure that the number of people that are coming in we have to address population growth.
what you just said brings me to the question of FSS 2020. One of the visions is, or the mission rather, is to be a catalyst for economic growth. Now, do you think that with the financial system has been able to make the Nigerian population inclusive, to reduce our financial system, as it were, to reduce poverty, to make more people banked, because we have still a lot of unbanked people, and all that? Do you think we've done well in that area?
With substantial improvement, Nancy, and you need to just go back 10 years ago and look at inclusiveness, and the CBN has developed a financial inclusion, strategy. That's a document. But in the context of what we have achieved in the payments arena, payments system vision 2020, we've done a lot. I think that the financial system, has done a lot. The issue of that some people are becoming richer and some people are poor is a completely different issue. It's a social issue. Inequality. That's a different topic. But in terms of deepening the system and increasing the quantum of, for example, loans that we give and access, but through some of the programs that the Anchor Borrower program has brought in so many people that into the inclusion, because for the people who have hooked onto the Anchor Borrower program, the first requirement is that you must have an identity and you must have an account. So we've done a lot, but are we where we should be? No, we are far away. The first thing that we must do, honestly, in my own view, is to look at the bank-led model. I'm sorry, I'm a CBN, and I've been saying there is a consensus within CBN to say that telcos must be included. You can only achieve inclusiveness when there is coverage, and that's why the cashless has had to stop at some point, because you needed to cover some area. But unfortunately, the network does not cover those areas. So I actually led a team to go to the regulator NCC to see how do we bring. Of course, we've done a lot of other things within CBN, trying to license telcos as super agents, but unfortunately that has not worked. So we must look at the model for mobile banking, because mobile is going to be the solution. The multiplier solution towards addressing inclusiveness. So if we bring, which is the model that the India model, if we bring set up an SPV where you bring the banks and the telcos to set up a business, and I am happy that there is a consensus between the two regulators, CBN and NCC, then you see ratcheting up of inclusiveness. We are today almost 40%. We started at I believe it was about 26%. Nancy, if we do that, if telcos see benefit of coming in, I'm sure that most of the people that are excluded will be included, at least through the kind of thing that we saw in Kenya.
That's
should happen.
Kenya, Safaricom in Kenya led all that, so we need that kind of cohesion, isn't it?
Yeah, we do. Theirs is telco-led. Putting a structure around it. Ours, we are coming from the experience that we've had from bank failures. So we want to protect deposits. So a hybrid is what the Indians have done. Is to bring the telco set up an SPV that is different from bank deposit. So honestly, if we have that, we should see that 80%, that is 20, reducing exclusion to 20, is something that I believe can be achieved and must be achieved. Some of the few other things that have been done, which are smart, accidental, but have helped exclusion, is, I'm not saying we should do it. It's India recently, withdrew their currency, they changed one denomination of their currency. In doing that, you can only return money by opening an account. What it has done towards ratcheting up inclusion, at least having people to have account and inclusive is unbelievable. So beyond addressing the bank-led, telco-led model issue, there are a few other things that we can do to make sure that we bring the number of people that are out in. But the Anchor Borrower program, if we extend it across all the value chains, a lot of the people that have run away from farming, when they go in, you capture a lot of the very rural people, and these are the people that you need to, to go to, and hope that we have finished with Boko Haram, because a lot of our attempt to move inclusiveness in the northeast was affected by the security challenge that we had in that area. Yeah, so these are things that we must do to make sure that, so let's we bring the benefit of the reforms in the financial system to the common people. We will not be seen to have succeeded. We can talk about initiatives, but how it impacts on the ordinary man is what we must target. And I think maybe that should be the agenda for the next phase of the FSS 2020.
Okay, I have two questions before we end.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is, you're retiring soon, just like I said. What have you learned so far? The Deputy Governor, the Central Bank of Nigeria, corporate services, what have you learned in the last few years that you've been on that seat? What have you learned as a public servant?
Well, I have, okay, we can spend the whole day. On a personal note, I have moved from being, a commercial investment banker to a central bank. And the way central bank look at issues is different from the way, the operators look at issues. It was a big learning point, for me, because I remember that I used to be at the other side, and
perhaps you're at the other side criticizing.
I was criticizing CBN. They would say there's excess liquidity, and I would say, how come? These people, they are not informed, but when the contexts are different. So on a personal level, I think it's been a tremendous, personal benefit to me in terms of my, what you can call with modesty, in my versatility. I'm able to see things in much, broader context. I have also realized, being in CBN, that the lessons learned is that, central banks have a key role to play in a nation's development. The decisions that we take at NPC and at COG and financial system studies are fundamental and far-reaching. Has put a lot of weight. It's a weighty, very, very, weighty responsibility. But because central banks in developing countries are among some of the most successful institutions that you have, necessarily, maybe because they have the resources, they have built capacities. Nigerians misunderstand the role of central banks. Nigerians think that it's only central bank that is leading that can solve the problem. And you've seen what has happened during the recent recession that we had. Everybody was blaming the central bank while we only handled the monetary aspect of it. The economy sits on three pillars. One is the fiscal, one is the monetary, and is the real, the structural. So we are just one, but everybody. So it's been a big lesson, for me. There are vested interests. I have seen, in the way that, and I thank God, I'm living, at the right time. In the way that vested interests wanted us to allow the forex market to operate. God knows.
External or internal?
External. People are saying, just, allow free flow the naira and then, I am happy that we didn't follow that. And I'm happy that, as a person, is what I believed in as a member of the Monetary Policy Committee, because you see, allowing markets function based on assumptions, and the assumptions that there are no distortions. I've always said that given the huge liquidity that we had in the banking system, it would have been a big disaster. And we were culprits in creating value for us to have allowed the naira to just go. It would have been finished. I'm happy that we didn't allow all those people that were making it, they have gone. They were saying that, just, allow the naira. Well, that's not what we did. And, I'm happy that this is no longer a matter for debate. This is not a matter of theory. If markets discover price when there are no distortions. I've always said that in our own market, for example, as far as FX is concerned, there are, distortions. So one of the things, I'm happy that, we have stable exchange rate, we have right level of reserves to foreign people are coming, because, for them, for the portfolio investor, it wasn't a matter of
coming to stay,
the right price. It was a matter of that I can exit. And we're telling people that no matter how you adjust it, if you have not addressed the oil price issue, and you have not addressed the Niger Delta issue, They will not come. So you will just continue to just look stupid, allow your currency to, to slide. The mandate of CBN is to build reserves to defend the international value of your currency. That's our mandate. We'll have, check on that level. So dealing with vested interest. When the 41 items issue, came, it was like, but it wasn't to do what fiscal was doing. It was to do, to say that, and this is one psyche that we must change. You see, a central bank comes to the market to intervene. People don't, I've seen people who are saying, legally CBN, they don't have the legal right to exclude people. No, we are in a market. The market, you determine who you want to sell to. So I don't know why Nigerians think that it's a right for them to buy foreign exchange from the central bank. So if we say we're not going to sell to 41 items, where are the sellers? Why must people think that they have a right to buy? And you see a lot of people making, a lot of noise. The benefit of that, we can debate whether it is 41 items or this, and this is the route that we follow. But to manage demand is fundamental to successful foreign exchange management in Nigeria. No doubt about that. So if you say you are going to, and some of the things that I regret personally that I think that is a business for the CBN going forward is to close debit cards. I've always said that. I'm sorry, I'm retiring, so I feel a bit free. To say no person will allow his currency to just, if it's not a free floating currency, it doesn't happen where people will just have card and go and spend whatever they can spend. The supply is not there. So those debit cards, the Naira, where you have Naira, you just go and it's something I'm happy that has come. We must not make the mistake, to bring it back. And there are quite a number of. The other one is, doing transactions in foreign currency. I have said it, and this is a personal view now. I'm talking as Suleiman, not as a deputy governor, to say that there's no reason why we should continue to have non-export domiciliary accounts. You cannot go to a bank in UK and transact business in dollars. You cannot go to a bank in the US and transact business in sterling. You can change currency. But the way we are doing it, where people will go to our own window and BDC and buy money and go and stock it in domicile, it has not been helpful. Quite a lot of the reserves that we have ended up in banks that are supposed to be for our common good as reserves in CBN. It doesn't make sense. You understand what I'm saying? So these are some of the lessons. That issues for there are so many, but. We have a big responsibility as CBN. CBN needs support, and people must be allowed a lot of. Even if I leave today, if I leave CBN and they have monetary policy committee, honestly, I should not criticize them because decisions at the MPC are evidence based. I don't know what they had. It's not. This is not textbook. So for them to take decision, and I think this institution must continue to be supported so that together. Of course, I'm not saying there are no areas that we can improve as an institution, but the institution should be left to function so that they can professionally do what they're supposed to do.
What would you like to be remembered for when your name is called Suleiman Barau? What would you like to be remembered for?
You mean as in my career?
Yes. As a person too, when your name is mentioned in the financial circle, because you've been there for a while.
Yeah.
A central banker for years. Suleiman Barau, what should he be remembered for?
Well, I would like to be remembered as, I am modest. So all of these things, I allow the people to say this is, for myself, or not for me to say it, is, is somebody who, has tried in his own way, to appreciate the big weight that has been given, to me, particularly in the last 10 years that I've been deputy governor. It's a weighty responsibility. We've carried a lot of weight. I've tried, to appreciate that weight, and I have, been in CBN in some of its most trying periods. In the last 10 years. My own is to say the consolidation.
It's like all the periods you've been there.
The suspension of the governor of Central Bank and AMCON and bank concern. I think that I would like to CBN to be recognized as an institution that has weathered this storm. And I would like to be seen as one of the persons that has helped, to help CBN to weather the storm. Every central bank has had crisis. When there was recession, the central bank is not good. Every central bank during the global financial crisis, probably only Bank of Canada and Bank of Saudi Arabia, and it's because they were largely closed. So if you are going to reform, you are exposed. So really, as an institution, we've done well. Central bank, the crisis I've had, foreign exchange crisis, inflation, problems I've had recently, and to some extent, interest rates. I think the central bank, has done well. While I'm living at the time of stability, I hope that I will have been seen as part of the team that has helped, to leave, the central bank with things going up, rather than down. So I've been very sad for me.
And hope it continues to go.
Thank you. It will continue to go. Thank you very much.
I wish you well.
Thank you,
Nancy.
Thank you.
All right, I've been speaking with Suleiman Barau, the Deputy Governor of Corporate Services of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Just like you heard him say, he's retiring. He's done his bit. So it remains for those of us that are there to do ours. Thank you very much for joining us.